So here you are. You're a voracious reader, and I know because I've been reading your online information that you had at one point you've got a deep love of theater and of acting, and I think I read a quote something from you that you said that if you could act or sing and be in a musical, you would give up editing and you'd go do that. Is that right?
Yeah, if I had any talent. Yeah, if I had any talent, that's true. Because I'm hammy. But I have a theory. I read this once in an Andy Warhol book. He had a friend, I think it was Henry Getzhelder, who was at the time, I think he was the head of the Metropolitan. I mean, I was probably in college or early 20s when I read it, and Warhol had this theory that because what Getzhelder loved something even more than art, but Warhol's theory was it's great to not work in the field you love best. And I would say I work in the field I love best, which is books. I mean, I feel I'm really, really lucky and graced that I had this passion and was able to work in it. But what I love about the theater, besides how caught up in it I am when I watch it, is that I don't work in it. So I don't have any jealousies about somebody else getting to work on something I would have liked. I don't experience a failure of something I love as painfully. It's really fun to love something and cheer for it and champion it and be into it, but not be attached like, my career, or I'm, like Ursula Nordstrom saying I'm going to quit my job if Where the Wild Things Are doesn't win the, I'm glad it's bad, So that's one of the things that's so great about theater. And it's the opposite of reading, because reading, even though I change, and I'm sure you've had this experience, but I've reread books that I read when I was in high school and been like, oh my God, I missed the entire thing that the author was trying to say, or something I've been reading when I'm trying to think of something I read in college and then reread, and it struck me very differently. Persuasion by Jane Austen is like that. I mean, I thought she was a spinster when I read it, and she's 27. And, now I think she was dutiful and then got another chance and took it. That's how I read it. But my point is, theater is different every night. And you're with the audience, and it's happening in the communication with the stage, and it's live, and it's exciting that way. And it's, whereas the book, every time you can bring it back to yourself every time, and there's no way, you can capture. In like 1993 or something, I saw a production of A Little Night Music at the National Theater, and it was sold out, and I stood in line at the crack of dawn to get a day seat, so I was in the center seat of the front row. And Judi Dench, who wasn't an icon in America then, but just a good working theater actress, in the opening waltz, came out to the front of the stage and like looked out into the audience, and I just was like, oh my God, I'm so haunted by that look. It contains generations. So I sold a ticket to something else I had and went back to see it. Then I went back to London in January to see it another time. And then I had to talk to my therapist about, it's a stage show. I'm trying to capture something that you can't, I was like obsessed. And thank God they recorded it, so I have the songs, and that's helped me remember it. But books are different. Books are the great old friend that you can bring out every single time, and theater only exists in the moment when you're watching it.
Makes sense. So how obviously pre-quarantine, pre-lockdown, how often did you go to the theater?
I've been asked that a few times. I don't really know. I think about 80 times a year.
Wow.
I don't think that's a lot. That's not even twice a week, right? Maybe.
Well, that was a jealous wow. I should clarify.
I think, and also because I would always get to go to London at least once a year, and I would be able to cram in a lot of shows then. So that brought my average up a bit. And if you live in New York, you can volunteer usher at a few theaters. So there were a few things I could see for free. But yeah, a lot.
And I'm sure if you're in line, have you usually got a book or a manuscript, something that you're reading to pass the time?
I used to. I remember waiting in line for free tickets to Shakespeare in the Park with boxes of manuscripts and reading through a lot of things out there. And Adam Rapp, who's both a playwright and a young adult author, I was editing a manuscript of his, and I left it under my seat at the theater at a play it's by Carol Churchill, and it was about Ceausescu, something forest. And that was mortifying. I mean, I went back to the theater and they had it, thank God. But so yeah, there was a lot of reading in the breaks. Also, once I was so bored, my friend was in something, and it was so horrible. I remember getting the manuscript out and tilting it towards the little light on the side of and trying to, read.
Well, if your friend, was blinded by the studio lights and didn't see it, what's the harm?
Exactly.
That's theater lights, studio lights, theater lights. So, I'm just out of curiosity, what would you say, maybe if you had to pick like 3 or 4 of your most favorite moments in a theater, what are things that could never be replicated? Obviously, we've covered Judi Dench's performance.
In a Little Light Music, oh my God. Okay. Wow, what a fun question. I'll try to blow through this because I feel guilty about people who want to hear about really great novels. 3 or 4 things that could never be replicated. Well, when I was, probably in like the first year I worked at Viking or something, I went to see Nicholas Nickleby, which was 8 hours long. And in those days, plays weren't 8 hours long. And I remember getting out of and taking a taxi home, and I got out and I was like, I'm in New York. Like I just forgot. It was like living in Dickensian London, that production. It was extraordinary. And the ending of it is so moving that's an image. At the end of the play, the entire company is standing around singing God Rest You Merry Gentlemen, and Nicholas picks up Smike and carries him to the front of the stage and just stands there with him in his arms. And it's like, yeah, I still haven't gotten over that one. So is that Judi Dench? I think I've seen a lot of productions of Sunday in the Park with George, and I think you can't wreck the end of the first act. And I certainly remember when all the characters who have been in the act sing this beautiful, beautiful song and suddenly form the painting Afternoon on the Island of the Grand Jatte, the great painting by Seurat that's in the Art Institute. And they freeze into place, and you see the painting, and the lights go out, and, that's pretty amazing. Okay, that's 3.
That's 3. That's pretty good. A life well lived, I would say that.
Also, if Leslie Odom Jr. is watching this, he went right, his voice went right through me in Hamilton. So I believe that we're destined, although he's happily married with a child, I think I'm his true love, and he just doesn't know that yet.
Well, he does now. We just told
I'm sure he's a big listener to Middle Grade Ninja.
Absolutely. I'm sure you can expect a phone call or an email directly. I saw that you'd seen Hamilton 5 times. Is that right?
4 times on Broadway, once in Chicago and once in London, so 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I had a ticket to see it at the Public, but I had a chance to travel that I took instead. That would have been 7. And I once kissed Jonathan Groff. That's my claim to fame. I'm putting it on my business card.
Really? What were the circumstances for which that happened?
He stopped me on the street and said, I don't know who you are. No, I was at Broadway Con, which is if you love Broadway, it's this wonderful convention. It's the Broadway Con it's like Comic-Con for Broadway fans. And there was a family feud with 2 teams, and I switched seats, and my team, as we walked out, I thought, ooh, if Leslie Margarita, who's a Broadway star, will change seats with me, I'll get to face off opposite Jonathan Groff. So there we were, about to hit the buzzer, like, how you face off on Family Feud, one team and the other. And I just thought I could give him a big old smooch. So I did.
I assume it was well received. You
it certainly was. Oh my God, it certainly was. And he looked at me and he said, "You're a good kisser, Elizabeth." It was nice.
Fantastic. That's wow.
I know. It was really, what can I say? I saw my chance and I went for it.
of things that you might regret it someday. That won't be one of them. You you nailed it.
That's right.